Hello everyone, this video is not sponsored. This is the Reobrix Japanese Game Store, little mini modular. It's on a 16 by 16 base size, so 1/4 of the size of a typical modular building. The retail price for this is approximately $60 US. I got mine on barweir.com and it was about $60 there. With shipping, I've also seen it on Amazon recently for approximately $60, and this has nearly 1,000 pieces in it, which is a whole lot for something so small. And as you might be able to see already, it has lights. It gets powered by USB. I am using a USB battery little box back here like I usually do. They have plenty of extra wiring for that. I'll show you how they attack the general concept of wiring with this. It is a little bit on the complex side, but very extremely effective with very, very bright lights that fortunately are also fairly efficient too. Look at that, 0.9192 watts. That's very good for how bright it is. No minifigures are included, but this is definitely intended to be minifigure scale. The size of the doors, the size of the interior, the size of the stairs, all that is completely minifig compatible. I would say it's based on a single plate down here, a single height of plate, and then they just put tiles on top of that. Unfortunately, they are a little bit lacking in studs to hold the feet of figures. As you can see, this is a 2-story setup. Access exists. It is a little bit limited. So coming around the back here, you can open this up and you see some spaghetti inside of there. You also see a power distribution board where all of the power goes. I can tell you happily that this has no pinched wires in it. And you got a couple of arcade games in there. It's a little bit difficult to see, but this driving game actually has a small little working feature. Oh, it's unfortunate. Let me try to look through the window. You can just barely see through there. The little red thing going back and forth is a roller skate that represents a car as viewed from the top. So you're able to kind of move that back and forth. The other arcade unit does not have its screen on, unfortunately. But this is a nice little space with a good level of detail, but not too much of it, so it doesn't look too cluttered, at least until you get the wires in here. Again, more on that a little bit later. All the decorations in this are done with stickers. So for folks who hate stickers, I am sorry, but definitely just ignore this set. Again, every single detail that you see here is using a sticker, and some of the stickers go over multiple pieces, which I personally had no problem with, but I understand that some people have, philosophical issues with that. They interestingly do give you 2 whole entire sticker sheets. I'm not the only person to have gotten 2 sticker sheets from what I've heard. Seems to be a common thing because this is a 2-in-1 set. They do expect you to potentially build this in 2 different ways if you want to. Over here we got this door, which you're only going to open out. And the funky thing here is that this lamp actually gets in the way of that. So that is definitely very awkward if you want to get some better view into this without taking the roof off. The roof can be removed, but again, we'll talk about lighting and wiring in a minute. Here you can see some of the interior detail. On this level, there's a bed over on the side. So this is basically just a small apartment. Above the shop, you can just imagine that whoever either owns the shop or works at the shop would have their personal space in there. And again, nicely detailed, really good use of the space, but not too compact, not too compacted with too much detail. But access to this after the fact is rough. This is definitely more of a build experience and display set than a play set. I do not recommend this for play. I can tell you that right now. So here's the main thing that you can actually take off. But there's an asterisk to that because I can't take it off all the way. First of all, obviously these over here are connected. I can go ahead and just take that off because these are just, a couple of basic strings with the studs attached. So I can just pull those off. I might have hit something in there, but I'm tethered. There are wires here because you've got the light up in the ceiling there. And this over here, both of those are connected. And so I can't take this all the way off. I can kind of shift it over to here. This is working. See, what's happening is it's actually passing electricity through. So it's a half loop. Electricity comes up from this side, goes through the ceiling lamp, and then ends up outside over to here. So all that is kind of integrated in there, and it's just not convenient. It's really not. I believe a couple of stickers on the sticker sheet could be used for those those tan things in there. I might have missed it in the instructions. I don't think I did, but I did see some spares there. But this just shows you the general level of detail on the inside, which is very good. And there's a nice little bookshelf over there. But again, like, who's going to do this after it's done? I don't recommend it personally. I don't recommend that you even try this, just because the wires are there. Okay, so speaking of wires, this actually uses we found out recently, the JST SUR 0.8 millimeter standard for connectors. It's the same standard that is used, and incidentally, by Reobrix. It's very small, and the individual male connectors here are able to go through a hole. They can actually be passed through here. They can also be passed through even smaller holes, such as something the size of a bar. So really, really tiny. Unlike what you might be used to if you've done a lot of lighted sets, these are fully polar. You can only plug them in one way. But the good thing there is you can physically only plug them in one way. So you cannot plug them in the wrong way. So that actually works out okay. But they are small, and you do end up with a whole lot of wire here that's just not managed. As you saw upstairs, a lot of it is managed. There's one little wire here that does hang down a little bit that you can see, depending upon just how you pull that in and kind of how the wire is bent as you build it. Up along the ceiling, the cable is managed. Up along the ceiling here, the cable is managed decently, but at the back, you end up with this bundle. And then outside as well, this just kind of hangs around and will go wherever you want. Thankfully, they give you plenty of lead up to a USB-A connector. But, you do have this little bit here that sticks out, and, the colors are very obvious. And over here, you have a little bit that sticks out. I don't mind this at all. This is perfectly fine. But then you do also have this here. It's complex lighting for what it is, for how small this building is. There are a lot of lights in it, and they are different styles of lights, slightly different colors. Most of them are, let's say the ones out here are like a cool white. The ones on the inside are a medium warm white. It looks good, actually. Even when you have plenty of light on in the room, I will go ahead and turn off all the room lights so that you can see what this looks like. Completely natural. In the dark. I think you'll be surprised. The vending machine does not actually work, does not actually vend. I know there are some small builds that work for that. There was one spot along the way in the instructions that was a little bit funky, in that they have a phantom stud that shows up out of nowhere and then it disappears again, and then it actually gets applied later on, a few steps later, a few pages later, for managing some of the wires. It's actually one of these right here, just a tiny little thing. Otherwise, I was very, very happy with the build experience when it comes to the parts and managing the parts. A lot of these alternate brands will give you a stack of bags of parts like this, and it'll be like 5 or 6 of them of different sizes. You have to open all of them at one time. And I've done so many of these that I've gotten so tired of opening so many bags at one time and having to sort them and having them all over my table, just completely taking up. I've got a large build space, but it still ends up taking up so much space. And then searching for one part can take, quite a few seconds, if not minutes sometimes. From this company, the parts are from GS Star. And thanks to a viewer for actually pointing out to me the fact that you can just open one bag at a time. So this is bag 3, portion 8. So there's a bag that has a whole stack of bags named bag 3, but then they're bagged 3-1, -2, -3. You only need to open one of those of this kind of size. So that's how many pieces. This is like the maximum number of pieces you have to have open in front of you in your build space at one time. And that is awesome. It is absolutely the best I've ever encountered, and I love that. And I hope that one day this can be a standard, because people who want to open more bags at once can just do that to make the process unnecessarily harder for themselves if they want the additional challenge. But for folks who don't want the challenge of having to look up or find pieces, first of all, have a very large desk space, and then secondly, find the pieces spread out across multiple trays or bowls or just on the desk itself, on the table. I think that's the way of yesterday. We've kind of migrated from having no numbers or letters for bags at all, to having numbers to having fewer bags per bag number. And now this, fewer parts per bag number. This is the best. Why do I have this bag left over though? These are used in the alternate build. The included instructions give you the full path to this. Now notice that this does have the wiring on the outside. I don't think they have you connect the lights as you go through this, but it's an alternate way of putting the pieces together, including the extra parts in that extra bag. And like I said, they do give you a second sticker sheet. So if you do want to take everything apart, and again, some of the parts go over multiple, or some of the stickers go over multiple pieces, so you will be guaranteed that you'll at least have one set that is going to be clean and good. You can reuse the stickers, it's not a problem, but you have to be careful with it, and not everybody's ready for that. And here's what the full sticker sheet looks like. So for the last time, yep, stickers are here. If you hate stickers, you have two options. Don't buy a set that has stickers, or two, don't put the stickers on. Both of those are completely valid options. You know, I personally like these, and when I showed this set to my wife for the first time, one of the very first things she said was, I love all the stickers that are on the set, because they have very nice designs that go edge to edge, and they have a nice soft vinyl as well. It's got enough durability, but it's soft, so it goes on cleanly, and you can put it on without any bubbles underneath pretty effectively and easily. Now here's what it looks like with all lights in my room turned off. This thing shines very brightly, and there is a problem with that. It shines so brightly that light comes through the white bricks in many, many places. That's just how ABS works. These parts, doesn't matter what the manufacturer is, these parts are not 100% opaque. The only way to get fully opaque white bricks is to stack up multiple of them back to back. And this just doesn't do that. So this does end up looking fairly awkward. Obviously, you know, that is unfortunate. And an unfortunate side effect of having so much light, such strong light inside of this thing. Here's the little hatch that you can open up on the back. Like, oh God. Once my eyes have actually adjusted to this space with literally no other light, if I look away and my eyes start to adjust to the darkness and I come back to this, I actually have to squint. It's that bright. Definitely could have been less bright, but like I said, it's not pulling that much electricity, so they're efficient. Hopefully they will last quite a long time. And again, only a USB option. If you want to run these off batteries, you can get a little battery pack that takes AA's or AAA's. You know, there are plenty of options out there, but I personally prefer to have a lithium option, or better yet, something continuous. But yeah, look at that. I mean, this thing it's a beacon, a total beacon. All right, one last thing about this that's not so great is this shade right here. It seems like this wasn't physically tested with production parts. Parts do change over time. Again, this company is not making its own pieces, and sometimes there are decisions that are made in digital design that assume there's going to be one particular style of part, and then if you have that particular style of part in your inventory, your physical inventory for your prototyping build and your proof of concept, you might have one result, but then when you actually get to production, you end up with something that has different tolerances on it. And that seems to be what the case is here, where this shade is supposed to be angled down, but as far as I can tell, there's just not enough room the way that these parts are put together. So you need to adjust the design there just a little bit if you did want this to angle down the way that it is intended to do. It's a very small thing, and a lot of people would not have noticed it if I didn't point it out, unless you were just going back and forth, memorizing, you know, the box art image and then looking at this or something. But overall, I am happy with this experience personally, but I recognize that there are plenty of people who are not as deep into hobbies, especially outside of the world of brick building, who will very much dislike the stickers and the wiring, because it does require a little bit more advanced dexterity, care, patience, familiarity with how electronics work. You know, I mean, it's not like you're having to solder anything together yourself, but you know, just having familiarity with small components and you know, their little micro idiosyncrasies and how to run wires and, deal with stuff like that. There's just a bunch of little things that you just pick up from hobbies and crafts over time that a lot of people just don't want to have to deal with. So I definitely consider this to be more of an advanced build for more of an advanced builder. And it is definitely more of a build and display set, which, hey, that is a very, very strong market. Plenty of people, I'd say most people who would buy something like this are going to do exactly that. They're going to build it. They're going to get hopefully some enjoyment out of the build experience, and they're going to put it on display, and it's going to collect dust, and they're going to dust it on a regular basis, and they're going to appreciate having it. They're not going to be playing with it. If you want something for kids, don't buy this. That's my recommendation. Otherwise, I think it's a nice option, and I like the size, and yeah, a lot of things are nice about it. The value is not amazing with it, though. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that they've got bespoke electronics for this. You've got things like the little dishes here for the lamps out front, the lights out front, that are actually drilled through to feed the wire. So that's a whole bunch of extra labor, even if they got a jig for that. The parts go into the jig, they drill the hole, somebody has to feed that wire through, which is going to come off of the LED. They're going to feed the wire through, and then they need to put that into a jig to then attach the connector at the other end. And that just adds a lot more. So that's why you get something that is of this size, that's only on a 16 by 16 base, and yet is the price that it is, even from an alternate brand. A lot of the cost comes down to labor of preparing the electronics. If they had no lighting in this, I guarantee you they could get this down closer to like $40 easily. And they might even be able to get it down to 40 with prints on it. Honestly, it makes that big of a difference. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that this was of some value to you. If you like to buy things that you see on this channel or similar things, or from any of the vendors that I use, including even Amazon, where you can get just about anything, right? Please consider using one of my affiliate links in the video description, because if you do that, it doesn't change anything for you unless it happens to be one of the vendors that will automatically give you a discount on regularly priced products, which is great. But in general, it's not going to change your buying experience, but it will give me a possibly, not guaranteed, but possibly a small commission, which really, really helps out, really helps to keep the channel going, because though these things are pretty nice in value, it still adds up, doing lots and lots of them over time. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you for the channel members who've gone above and beyond to support me as well. Folks who show up for the live streams, especially when we're doing charity work, and also the Patreon members who help me out a ton with direct support, as well as emotional, moral support for doing this stuff. So thanks for helping to keep me going, and I'll talk to you again soon.